In the darkest corners of human civilization, pain was not simply inflicted, it was engineered. Throughout recorded history, societies developed instruments designed not merely to punish, but to break the human body and spirit. In this documentary, we will examine 10 of the most cruel torture devices ever created. Their origins, their purpose, and the chilling reality of how they were used will reveal a side of humanity shaped by fear, control, and the pursuit of absolute dominance. To understand these devices, we must enter worlds defined by rigid authority and brutal justice. From medieval Europe's obsession with public punishment to ancient empires enforcing obedience through terror, torture was a tool used by judges, inquisitors, monarchs, and armies. These devices were crafted by skilled blacksmiths, approved by rulers, and witnessed by entire communities who believed suffering could cleanse sins, reveal truth, or maintain order through fear. The Iron Maiden, often associated with medieval Germany, stands as the image most people imagine when thinking of historical torture. It was a towering metal sarcophagus, shaped like a human figure, fitted with long internal spikes. When the victim was placed inside and the door was shut, the spikes pierced the body without touching vital organs, ensuring the agony lasted for many hours or even days. Its purpose was terror. Inquisitors and rulers displayed it as a symbol of absolute authority. While some historians debate whether certain Iron Maidens were used exactly as described, references from late medieval chronicles describe similar spiked enclosures employed to prolong suffering. Sensory experience was central. The cold, echoing metal, the suffocating darkness, the slow puncturing of flesh with every breath. Yet the Iron Maiden was only the beginning of devices built for prolonged torment. Known across Europe, the breaking wheel was a wooden wheel as tall as a man, used especially from the late medieval period through the early modern era. The condemned person was tied to the wheel, and executioners shattered their limbs with heavy iron bars. The broken body was then woven into the spokes and raised on a post for the public to witness. This method served both punishment and spectacle. It turned the human body into a display of shattered bones and stretched sinews. In some regions, this device was used for crimes such as murder or treason, justified by legal codes that demanded severe physical destruction as repayment for severe moral wrongdoing. Accounts from cities in the Holy Roman Empire describe crowds gathering at dawn to watch the first strike. Bones could break with a sound compared to cracking timber. Death was slow, often lasting many hours. If the breaking wheel destroyed the body, the next device aimed to destroy the senses. Invented during the reign of King Henry VIII of England, the Scavenger's daughter was a metal frame that forced the body into an unnatural, crushing position. Unlike the rack, which stretched a prisoner, this device compressed them. Victims were folded so tightly that blood vessels burst and breathing became nearly impossible. Its purpose was interrogation. Prisoners placed in the Scavenger's daughter often lost consciousness as pressure built around the ribs. When released, many collapsed immediately. This method left few external marks, making it ideal for situations where authorities sought confessions without obvious wounds. Historical descriptions mention prisoners enduring intense chest pain, vomiting blood, and experiencing ringing in the ears as pressure increased. Compression was only one form of controlled agony. Some devices forced the body into positions meant to tear it apart from within. The rack may be the most infamous torture device in history. It consisted of a long wooden platform with rollers at each end. The victim's wrists were tied to one roller and ankles to the other. As the executioner turned the handles, the body was stretched until joints dislocated and ligaments tore. Originating from ancient times but reaching peak use during the medieval period, the rack served interrogation and punishment alike. Authorities believed that stretching the body to its limits would force truth from the unwilling. Many victims described hearing their shoulders separate before pain became overwhelming. Chroniclers recount how bones sometimes snapped with a sharp, sickening crack, and tendons recoiled like snapped ropes. Few survived unscarred. If the rack tortured through stretching, other devices relied on heat turning fire into both a weapon and a psychological tool. Perhaps one of the most terrifying inventions of ancient Greece, the Brazen Bull, was a hollow bronze statue shaped like a bull. Prisoners were placed inside, and a fire was lit beneath. As the metal heated, the person roasted alive while their screams echoed through the chamber. Its creator, according to legend, designed the interior so that screams would mimic the sounds of a raging bull. The device served as both spectacle and warning. Leaders used it to eliminate political enemies or those who defied authority. Descriptions from ancient writers speak of the bull glowing red, the air shimmering with heat, and the metallic roars echoing over public squares. From flames to spikes, the next device punished slowly, relying on gravity and the victim's own weight. The Judas Cradle, also known as the heretic's fork method in some regions, was a triangular wooden or metal pyramid positioned on a raised support. The victim was suspended above it by ropes, and their entire body weight was slowly lowered onto the point of the pyramid. The goal was not immediate death, but prolonged agony. Its origins are often traced to inquisitorial courts in medieval Europe, where extracting confessions was considered more important than delivering swift punishment. The pressure on sensitive areas caused excruciating pain. Even small shifts in posture sent shocks through the body. Days of exposure often resulted in infections, making the method as psychologically devastating as it was physical. Historical descriptions mention victims begging for the torturer to pull them upward for only a moment of relief. That relief never came. Where the Judas Cradle tortured with pressure and humiliation, the next device used sharp metal to inflict a more direct form of agony. This device, shaped like a mechanical metal pear, was inserted into the mouth, the rectum, or the vaginal cavity, depending on the alleged crime. When the screw at its top was turned, the metal petals slowly expanded outward, tearing internal tissue. Its use was often justified in cases involving accusations of blasphemy, adultery, or perjury. The device left horrific internal wounds but minimal external traces, making it favored by torturers seeking to hide the severity of their methods. Eyewitness reports describe victims screaming until their voices broke, the sound echoing through stone chambers. Some lost consciousness from blood loss or shock before the torturer ever stopped turning the screw. While the Pear of Anguish attacked the body from within, some devices were designed to tear flesh on the outside relentlessly and visibly. These handheld tools were fitted with curved, sharpened iron hooks. Torturers dragged them across the skin to rip off flesh in long, bloody strips. Known across Europe from the early medieval period onward, these tools were often heated in fire before use, adding sizzling burns to lacerations. The device served a dual purpose: intimidation and interrogation. Victims often confessed before the second strike. For those who did not, the claws could expose muscle and tendons in mere minutes. Pain was immediate and overwhelming. The smell of burned flesh filled the chamber, and blood pooled beneath the victim. Records from inquisitorial courts describe torturers working in calm, steady motions, pausing only to reheat the claws. Some devices did not rely on blades or heat, but on prolonged suffering caused by rigid, unnatural positioning. Though less fatal than other devices on this list, the pillory and the stocks were among the most publicly humiliating forms of medieval torture. Victims were restrained in wooden frames placed in town squares, often for many hours or several days. Unable to move, they endured muscle cramps, joint pain, hunger, cold, and the cruelty of onlookers. Crowds threw rotten food, stones, or filth. Some victims were beaten by townspeople, while others suffered exposure to rain, sun, or freezing wind. The slow degradation of the body, combined with the emotional trauma of ridicule, made these devices psychologically destructive. Municipal records from medieval France, England, and the Low Countries describe hundreds of such punishments issued every year for crimes ranging from theft to blasphemy. With the social punishments covered, we now reach the final and perhaps the most infamous device of all. The Spanish donkey was a triangular wooden beam sharpened to a painfully thin edge. The victim was forced to sit astride it as if riding a horse, but the sharp edge cut into the body. Additional weights were sometimes tied to the victim's legs to increase the downward pressure, causing deeper cuts and severe bleeding. This device was widely documented in both Spanish and French judicial practices during the height of inquisitorial power. Used for interrogations, confessions, and punishments alike, the Spanish donkey targeted both physical endurance and psychological terror. Victims often fainted from pain, only to be revived and placed back on the beam. Chroniclers describe executioners calmly adding weight, one small piece at a time, while the victim screamed and begged for mercy. Having reached the end of this list, it is time to reflect on what these inventions reveal about the societies that built them. These devices, crafted across centuries and civilizations, reveal a chilling truth. Cruelty was often institutional, justified by legal systems, religious courts, and rulers who believed pain could enforce order, extract truth, or display power. Each instrument mirrored the fears of its era: fear of rebellion, fear of heresy, fear of the unknown. Yet in studying them, we confront more than mechanical brutality. We see a reflection of human nature capable of forging objects of unimaginable suffering. And we are reminded that history's darkest inventions were not born from monsters, but from ordinary people following the laws, beliefs, and expectations of their time. As the echoes of these devices fade into the past, they leave behind a sobering lesson. The capacity for cruelty lies not in the tools themselves, but in the hands that choose to use them.